If you actually break it down, when you find deaths of celebrities, and they actually search what's in the system, after they've died, 9 times out of 10 you're going to find alcohol in the blood.
Right.
There'll probably be something else, in which case the media, died of cocaine or something. Yeah, there's alcohol that won't get mentioned.
So if you were put in charge tomorrow of the country, would you legalise every drug? Do you never worry that you're going to get addicted to some of the drugs that you do? Because you must have done some of the most addictive drugs on the planet.
Yeah, but the problem is that most of the addictive stories you hear are false, which isn't to say that you won't get addictive. But the idea, the story used to be you have heroin once and you're addicted and you'll never be the same again.
Well, that's my understanding of it. Yeah, is that incorrect?
That's absolutely not correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, one of the most addictive drugs is alcohol.
Right.
Christ, look around you.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you want evidence, real life with your real eyes, have a look around you.
Yeah. So heroin, for example,
it's addictive, definitely, and it tends to be addictive to people who've got lots of problems and issues in your life.
Yeah, right.
Which is why there's a sort of profile of the heroin addict, which is framed by the fact that the effect of heroin, apart from the euphoria if you inject it at the start, that the effect of heroin generally is to make your problems go away.
Yeah, right.
Create a comfort bubble.
Yeah.
So if your life is fraught with difficulty and you're really struggling with that, heroin will temporarily make that go away. So you can obviously understand why anybody who's in that situation.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with the addictivity. It's a circumstantial type of lead up to addiction.
Right, yeah.
So the problems come back, but even worse, probably spent money they didn't have on heroin.
Yeah.
So then again, they'll desperately need heroin to make the problems go away.
And it's a vicious circle, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So that's understanding the nature of the drug.
Yeah.
And again, it's something that, people don't get told any of this.
No.
They get spun lies. It's like, cannabis, it's the gateway drug, and you're thinking, hang on a minute, it's all lies.
Right.
If I've got kids and you're thinking, well, what would I want my kid to do? Smoke weed every weekend or get pissed every weekend? Well, it'll be smoke weed every day of the week.
Right.
Because it's less addictive, less harmful, less toxic. And that's a factual, they're the facts of the drugs.
Yeah.
Why do you think alcohol is fine and legal in 99% of places, but certain drugs aren't?
Well, I think a combination of circumstances. The first one, it's been used throughout history and it was already in place, a legacy drug, if you like. The second is that big corporations basically control the market and deal it.
But could they not do that with drugs? Couldn't they quite easily take over that market?
They're the ones making the money and they're the ones who can actually fund the politicians. Don't make any other drugs legal because it'll encroach our market.
Wow.
And you actually find in the US when there's cannabis legalization is on the ballot, big contributors, some of them are alcohol peddlers. Big breweries, big.
What, they're the ones preventing the legalisation of other?
They're funding the say no to this amendment that will legalise cannabis in, Republican states typically.
Right.
There's that pressure from the existing monopoly of alcohol suppliers who don't want any other drug to be legal. And then there's the fear of the sort of social attitudes to drugs, and the appeasement of rags like the Daily Mail. Hard on drugs. Oh, he wants to legalise cannabis. Soft on drugs.
Right.
Which is complete, absolute propaganda. But that's the world we live in, and why globally? Because Western culture is globally dominant.
So, if you were put in charge tomorrow of the country, would you legalise every drug?
Yeah.
Are there not any you'd want banned? No.
Why would you, if you're educating the population, or at least if you're regulating the drugs, you do need quality control.
Yeah.
You do need to try and stop kids having drugs.
Yeah.
So if you're an adult and it's quality controlled and it's regulated, you're going to do more good than harm. Partly because if somebody has a sort of menu of drugs with alcohol on it, the chances are more people are going to have non-alcoholic choices than alcohol. And given that alcohol is right there at the top, probably with crack and fentanyl.
Really? What is this where you would put alcohol based on your studies?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. It's right at and not just my studies. If you go to the BMA and the journal, they've done relative harm studies, and alcohol is always right up there through medical institutions.
Up there with what were you comparing it to? Like crack and
with heroin and
heroin?
Absolutely.
In what way?
Harm to personal harm to society. They've tried to do sort of quantify the harms of a whole range of popular drugs.
Yeah, right.
And of course, you've got things at the bottom like LSD, no deaths.
Right. Yeah.
Highly illegal, class 1.
But so like, and I'm not educated in this, I don't know. But so with LSD, could there be potential that there's been deaths because of what people have done whilst on LSD, but rather than death from the drug itself?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, they say, you'll jump off a building. No, you won't jump off a building.
Right.
Normal situation, you do have this 1 foot on the ground.
Yeah.
It's not a delirium.
Okay.
I mean, this is a lack of understanding in society between a delirium and, say, a psychedelic like LSD.
Yeah.
You do not get people trying to fly on LSD.
Oh, okay. See, that was again.
There might have been one person somewhere at one time who'd probably been drinking as well, who fell through a window.
Yeah.
I think that was an advert when we were younger. There was an advert about, like, it might have been like a Talk to Frank or something, but there was an advert where there was someone like climbing up on scaffolding and stuff outside a nightclub.
Yeah,
and he jumps off.
Yeah.
And they're saying, don't do...
Interesting, it's outside a nightclub though, isn't it? And therefore the guy was like to be intoxicated.
Right.
Yeah, I swear that was an advert.
If you actually break it down, when you find deaths of celebrities, and they actually search what's in the system, after they've died, 9 times out of 10 you're going to find alcohol in the blood.
Right.
There'll probably be something else, in which case the media, died of cocaine or something. Yeah, there's alcohol that won't get mentioned.
Right.
That's part of the propaganda and the culture we live in.
Wow.
But in terms of harm, alcohol is right high, right at the top.
Is it?
With the worst ones. And I said, even if everything was legal and people were shopping for a menu, I want to have a drug experience. If they knew what the experiences were for a start, you wouldn't pick, let's get out of my head so I don't know what I'm doing and I act like a dick.
Yeah.
That experience would not be very high in your choice.
Yeah.
So if you're actually having people taking drugs which are more benign, less harmful, less likely to lead to addiction or overdose or death or compulsive redosing, for instance, then straight away it's a public health benefit.
Right.
But we can't get to this, or even to this honest conversation about, well, here's 10 drugs. Why don't we just make those legal? Because, these drugs, 8 of those drugs are definitely less toxic than alcohol, are definitely going to be less likely to lead to a tragic situation. And again, if you don't believe me, look all around you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the problem.
Is there a worry, or like, if all drugs were made legal tomorrow, would society collapse?
Nothing would change.
Would it not?
Well, it's not in any other country where you've had any relaxation of legislation.
Right.
I mean, why would it collapse? Suddenly you find parts of the population having less toxic drugs that are tend not to have as bad a hangover and therefore losing the next day.
Yeah.
Tend not to make you behave in a way that's dangerous to yourself and others. Why would that be a problem to society? It wouldn't.
If it went legal tomorrow, though, wouldn't there be countless people continuing to drink alcohol whilst now doing these drugs as well?
Yeah.
I think...
Like, how would you stop them from...
Or doing drugs at work, not completing their tasks, like that's...
Well, we have that now.
Yeah.
But if it was legal tomorrow with the right framework of regulation, and you went to sort of, say, a chemist to get the drug in question, and they provided you with information, here's what it's going to do, here's the dose, etc., stuff that's in here. I mean, I should never have had to write that. That should be government.
Yeah.
They should have wrote that.
Yeah, right.
But, if you had a situation in which it was phased in a way that educated people and with honesty about alcohol in the pot, well, alcohol, let's admit it, it's a toxic, addictive drug.
Yeah.
If you want to use other drugs, maybe you should think about that and not have it with the alcohol. I mean, alcohol just tends to kill the other drug. I mean, notice that with psychedelics. You know, if you piss when you have an alcoholic, LSD, you're not likely to feel much of the LSD.
Right.
Because its sort of dominance is this sort of poison, toxic thing.
Yeah, so many people who do recreational drugs would associate drink and that drug, like drink and that drug. But
they're doing it on a night out.
Yeah.